Hiya, my name is Jess and welcome to my channel, Reads of the Ravenclaw. Today I'm going to be talking to you about all of the books I read this March, which is actually, I've read 5 books, which I think is really quite good for me, considering this month has just been a crazy month of revision, where my head has just been like bursting with facts that I know I'm not going to remember like 6 months down the line, rather than books and reading and all the things I'd really rather be doing. So I think 5 is a pretty respectable tally. And I've also got one poetry collection here to show you, which I'm quite excited to talk about, because like a year or so ago you never would have had me talking about poetry on this channel, I think, because it's something that I've only really started reading for pleasure over the past few months, and I've been enjoying it so much. So much. So let's just get in with the reviews. The first book I read this month was Silver Linings Playbook by Matthew Quick. This book is about a man called Pat Peoples who, right at the start of this novel, has just left a psychiatric ward. Pat has a really strong belief that if you work hard enough at it and if you earn it, you have some sort of cosmic right to a silver lining or a happy ending, and his happy ending, his ideal happy ending, would be reuniting with his wife Nikki, who he has not seen since entering the psychiatric ward. I picked up this book because the film version with Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper would have to be one of my top 5 favourite films of all time. I absolutely love it. I think it's just wonderful and moving and so much fun to watch. And this book also proved to be really enjoyable. It's told in the first person, so you get to be right in Pat's head, and Pat's head is a very interesting place to be, particularly because he is so fixated this whole time on reuniting with Nikki. It's just this kind of single objective that he has in mind, and it was just so interesting to see how this really intense belief about silver linings and this right to a happy ending just shaped his mentality and the way he thought about everything and the way he went with everything. One of my favourite things about this book was how unbelievably flawed the characters were. I feel like Matthew Quick did not shy away from having characters who did unlikable or unwarranted things, and I quite like that in books. I like it when the characters aren't these sort of perfect, always does the right thing, or the wrong things they do have no repercussions. I don't like that type of character. I really liked how real this book felt because of how many mistakes and wrong decisions the characters made, and how they did have to pay for them and they did have to work through them. I've got to say that I do prefer the film to the book, and that's just because there were aspects of the book that I think the film had changed and in my opinion maybe made more appealing. So for example, in this book Pat does not have a very strong relationship with his father at all, whereas that is something that in the film version they work on a lot and they develop, and Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro in the film do such an amazing job of bringing that dynamic to life, and I just found the father-son dynamic in this book to be quite like lackluster by comparison. That being said, I really enjoyed this book in its own right and I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read this month was History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. This book is about a boy called Griffin whose ex-boyfriend Theo has just passed away. At Theo's funeral, Griffin comes across Theo's most recent boyfriend, which is a boy called Jackson, and the two boys just kind of have this very strange dynamic where they're both trying to help each other deal with their grief and also kind of purge their own grief at the same time, and it's very quite dark and moving and extremely sad. This is the first Adam Silvera book I've ever read. His debut novel, More Happy Than Not, got so much hype on BookTube, and after reading this it is one that I really want to get to. Out of all of the books this month, this is the book that I read the fastest, and I really think that's due to Griffin's voice, because just the pace that he would tell it at, the kind of snappy way he'd tell the story, you just wanted to keep going and uncovering all of these layers that he put down in place in the narrative for you. This book is also told with a lot of flashbacks, so you get to see bits of Griffin's relationship with Theo before Theo died, and also how Griffin is dealing with Theo's death in the wake of that incident. One thing I didn't really enjoy about this book is I didn't really like the character Theo, who is Griffin's ex-boyfriend at the start of the novel, and that doesn't mean that I didn't feel such sympathy for Griffin throughout the entire thing, because I really felt for him, and Adam Silvera did such a great job of just creating that headspace, but the character Theo himself just really irritated me, and I didn't think that he was a very nice person or someone who really treated Griffin's feelings with the respect that they deserved. Ultimately, I just thought that it was a really strongly written, moving portrayal of grief and of friendship and of first love, and I really want to pick up Adam Silvera's debut now, and I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. The next book I read this month isn't really a book, it's a poetry collection. I've lied to you. And it is Over the Moon by Imtiaz Dharker. I picked this book up because there is a recommendation from Carol Ann Duffy on the back, and we are studying Carol Ann Duffy's collection, The Feminine Gospels, in my college right now, and I'm really enjoying it. So I thought, you know what, that's a sign. It's a sign I'm meant to pick this book up. Imtiaz Dharker deals with a lot of different themes in this collection. She looks at language and culture and the city and bustle of modern life a lot in it, but she also deals a lot with grief, very probably due to the death of her husband before writing this. I think my favourite thing about this collection is that Imtiaz Dharker isn't a flashy poet. One thing that I have discovered since kind of foraying into poetry is that I don't like poets who use big words for the sake of just appearing impressive. I really like it when poets use really accessible language and really everyday language, but they manipulate it in a way that's just so beautiful. And I think Imtiaz Dharker does that really well. For me, the strongest poems in this collection were the ones that dealt with the grief over the loss of her husband, just because the emotions were so palpable and just I felt them so strongly, which is really amazing because these poems, they're not long poems. It was rare to come across a poem that was more than 2 pages long in this entire collection, and they still managed to pack such a punch, and they were really beautiful. I did have a few problems with this collection, and I think they're all more personal taste ones rather than there being anything wrong with the collection at all. And I think that's what I'm finding as I read more poetry, is that it's quite hard to review because I think it's such a personal thing. And I felt like I wasn't remembering many of the poems after I'd read them, that they just didn't stand out to me as much as I wanted them to, and there are a few that I felt really strongly in the collection, but a lot of the poems I didn't enjoy, and I felt like I was skipping through a lot of poems that I wasn't enjoying to maybe find one that I really liked. I know that you're not going to like every single poem that you read in a collection, but it felt like out of a lot of poems in here, I only really ended up strongly feeling maybe 2 or 3 of them, and so I ended up giving this a 3.75 out of 5 stars, because whilst I did enjoy it, there were bits of it that just were kind of felt a little bit lacklustre to me. And the final 2 books that I read this month are kind of joint, so I thought I'd show them together, and they are Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling. Exams are coming up, and I feel stressed a lot of the time, and I feel down a lot of the time, and the other day I just sort of thought to myself, what is going to make this better? And this was my answer. I haven't reread this series in years, and that's because I reread them so many times between the ages of like 7 and 12 that I just couldn't reread them anymore. I think I've read the whole series from start to finish something like 8 times, and the first couple something like 11 or 12 times because I tried to start a few times and then didn't finish. But it's been a couple of years now since I've done a whole read through, and I'm enjoying it so much. There's just something about returning to it that's just so comforting to me, and it's the perfect thing to read when you're stressed or when you're down, I think. Also just rereading them, I just have so many moments where I just sort of sit there and just appreciate how amazingly clever and how much of a genius J.K. Rowling is. Just everything about this world and the way that it's constructed is so completely immersive and well thought out. It's just like, it's incredibly written and amazing, and that is why I think just how much work she's put into it and how immersive it is. That is why these books are going to be classics, and they're still going to be read years and years from now, because anyone can get lost in this world. I will say, since reading these books, I have got a bit of a problem with Dumbledore, who is not a good teacher. I love Dumbledore, like, don't get me wrong, I think he's an amazingly written and constructed character, but you know, you've got to stop letting like 11, 12-year-old kids run off into potentially life-threatening situations, Dumbledore. I mean, it's just unsafe teaching. Other than that though, I think I'm appreciating these books more than I ever have this time around, and I'm so happy that they still resonate with me as strongly, if not more strongly, now I'm a bit older than when I was younger, and oh, it's just so great. If you haven't reread Harry Potter in a while, I really encourage you to do so. And of course I gave both of these books a 5 out of 5 stars. I hope you enjoyed this video, because I really enjoyed making it and rambling and talking to you about all of the stuff I love this month. So thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye!